Well, welcome back to day 3 of the Self-Love Through the Archetypes journey. It's Christina and Charlie Smith, and we are going to have another talk today. So yesterday we talked about all of the inner judge and all of the stories that we took on from other people as we were growing up about who we were and who we should be. And so today we are going to take a completely different view. We're still working on our self-love and ourselves. However, we get to do something that, my shadow self loves to do is judge people. So today we're going to do a short exercise, and we're just going to take a few breaths, calm yourself down. Get settled in your seat, put your feet on the ground, close your eyes. And we're just going to think of a person that we struggle to get along with sometimes. Maybe we like them, maybe they're in our family, but they have a characteristic or qualities, maybe more than one, that we have a hard time getting along with, that we struggle with, that we have judgments about. And just think about those qualities. Maybe it's a personality. Come up with some words to describe those qualities that you have judgments about, harsh judgments. Then let that person fade. And then think of another person. Maybe for completely different reasons. There's things about them that just challenge you. Maybe say trigger you. You have a strong reaction to in them that you don't necessarily like. You think of a few words for those qualities and characteristics. When you're ready, take a few breaths. Come back to the room. Feel your feet on the ground and open your eyes when you're ready. And then I invite you to write those words down. What were the characteristics or the qualities about the people you pictured that you have judgments about?
And what are the stories that you tell yourselves about those qualities or characteristics?
So Charlie is going to give us an example of some of the qualities that he sees in other people that he doesn't appreciate.
Yep. Yeah, one of the things that triggers me is when I see a behavior or hear words or see some action or something in the world that my judgment goes up and says, wow, that person's only thinking about themselves. They're self-centered. They're not considering what their words, what their actions, and what they're doing and how that's going to impact others. That bugs the hell out of me.
Yep. And one of my big things is, well, I have a few of them because I am a judgmental person, but mean girls or dishonest people. Those are two of my biggest triggers, is people who are mean for no reason and people who lie because, other people are depending on the truth, and that really irks me. Like, communication shouldn't be that hard. If you just told me the truth, I'd be able to figure out a plan or move forward or do whatever, but the lying, it really is a trigger for me. So Those are just some of mine. Hopefully you've written down yours by now. And then today we get to talk about
the shadow. Jung actually defines the shadow as an archetype. And, there's this, and they're, similar to all the other archetypes, there's a good or a beneficial, a gift aspect to it. And then there's this drawback, this that holds us back, that prevents us from being all that we can be aspect. Dark and light, good and bad, all those, binaries that split it. And so this, right now we're talking about the dark aspect of the shadow, the part of ourselves that we don't want others to know about. The part of ourselves which, if we actually are not paying attention and we're coming from a place of reaction, that dark shadow in us can come out unconsciously and react and just drive the bus, and oftentimes get us a result that we don't really want. But if we shed a light on it, if we pay attention to it, if we understand that that's an aspect of ourselves which is a potential in any given moment, then we can actually slow that process down and consciously make a choice and say, hang on a second, if I let myself react right now, am I really going to get what I want out of this situation? Or maybe if I handle this situation a different way, I can benefit from it, and maybe the other person can too. The words that you wrote down about those negative things that you see in other people, those qualities or characteristics and the stories that you tell themselves, guess what? That potential actually resides within you as well. You are capable of those behaviors. And in some cases, you may have even acted out in those ways in your life. If you spot it in somebody else, you've got it. You have that ability to do it. So, for instance, my example of self-centeredness in others. Well, guess what? I am constantly thinking about my comfort. I'm constantly thinking about how whatever's happening is going to impact me or inconvenience me in some way. For instance, in the morning, I love to wake up slowly and take my time and adjust. And the truth is, as soon as the light starts coming, there's animals that need to be taken care of. There's stuff in the house that needs to be done before we go and do our jobs for the day. There's preparations and all these responsibilities and everything. And I'm like, well, what about me? What about my time? So that's how I can actually own the part of myself, which is also self-centered.
Yeah, and when it comes to being mean or dishonest, if I'm not focused on that area of my life, right? I can definitely become mean because I'm reacting to what I think I'm seeing in the world. However, you might be thinking, but, dishonesty, does that mean that you're a big fat liar, Christina? Because if you see it in other people, it must mean that you're a big fat liar, right? And that's not what we mean. So there are times where we don't act out the thing. However, there's an urge to. So for me, I try to be so honest that I often cheat myself, because I don't know if I want to say that, but I often shortchange myself because, if I told a little white lie, it might make it a lot easier for me. You know what I mean? So there's a part of me that feels almost victimized by not being able to tell the littlest, tiniest, whitest lie. Instead, I am honest and I take all the consequences that go with it. And then I'm like, the person who goes by the rules and then gets mad that not everybody's following the rules. So that's one of the things that can trigger me there.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was saying with the meanness, I know that I can become mean if I think that other people are being mean, or if I'm not looking at that shadow part of me. Just my unconscious suspecting that other people might be mean will automatically put all my walls up, right? And then what happens is I'm manifesting the exact thing that I don't want to happen. Because when I put walls up, what happens to other people? They put their own walls up, and then, there's no connection. It's just really strained. And that we can cause that ourselves. Another way that we can manifest these things in our shadow, and it's so important, and why it's so important to look at our shadow, you know, because you might be thinking right now, self-love, this doesn't sound like fun. But this is where the true work is, when we can see these pieces underneath, you know, what's really going on with our judgments in the world. We get to know ourselves better, we get to accept ourselves better, and we get to accept all of ourselves, right? Because it's really difficult to love yourself if you're only willing to love the gold parts, right? And not the darker parts.
Bingo.
It's so easy to love the beauty in people without wanting to have to love the other stuff that maybe we don't find so beautiful. And so whether that's other people or within, we have to look at that stuff. You know, how am I bringing this out in the world? And the reason is because we can manifest these things. One more example is, you know, for example, if we had a rotten childhood and we're like, I'm never raising my kids the way that my mother raised her kids. And it's all good intentions, right? We might even do a lot of the opposite things. But without looking at our shadow and, you know, what are the pieces that that the characteristics or the personalities or the actions that she did that I also have. Without looking at that, I'm ignoring the cause of all of the other consequences, of all the other wounds, right? I'm ignoring the cause and just putting bandages on, saying that my actions will be different, but they could still have the same intention or the same impact on other people. So it's just the ways that we unconsciously manifest the things when we're not really looking at what's holding us back. And the shadow is the part that wants to hold us back. It wants to keep us this tiny, because if we're this tiny, nobody sees us and we can't get hurt.
Right. It wants to protect us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It wants to
keep
protect
us safe
us. Just like that inner critic. It kind of wants to keep us safe. But however, we have these bright lights. And if we don't learn to look at these shadow parts and accept them, we can't shine those lights, because the shadow is always going to be darkening us. Right. So today we have some questions, and I'll put together a worksheet so that you have all these questions, but just to run through some of them so that you understand where we're going with this thing. And I promise you, it's going to turn around tomorrow. So bear with it. Look at those judgments that you had earlier of everybody else, right? Of the other people who have these harsh judgments that you've put on them. And look at them for yourself. What do those mean for you personally? How do you embody them or suppress them? How are these judgments and stories about you? And what are the things that you hide from others? What are some of these characteristics you don't want other people to see? And what is your fear about these judgments? If other people saw you as self-centered or mean or dishonest, what do you fear would happen? And so we leave you with those questions. We'll have more in a worksheet in the Facebook group. So look for that link around here somewhere. And hopefully those help.
And the important thing about these questions, even though they're hard to look at, leaving them unanswered allows the space for that very thing, like she was talking about manifesting it. Leaving these questions unanswered allows the space for those very things to come true. And that's why it's so important to answer them and shed the light on them.
Exactly. So this is self-love.
Yep.
It's not always pretty in foot massages, but there should be one tonight, right?
It is your birthday.
So it's not always, hot baths and whatnot. Sometimes the work is within, and it will really change all the work without. So
good luck with this, and be nice to yourselves.
Yeah, be good to you.
Be nice to yourselves. It's okay.
Tomorrow is going to be much more fun than today, I think. So it's all, this is the, bottom of the valley. So we're coming back up. We're finding all our gifts starting tomorrow.
All right.
All right. Have a good one.
Okay. Bye.